I think Picasso said it best when he said, every child is an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you're growing up. And that's the focus on our show today.
Amy Burvall has been teaching for over 20 years and is an amazing speaker, trainer. She loves remix culture, new literacies, media theory, typography, art history, graphic design, cheeky, whimsical art, and open web, open culture. Amy, great to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
And yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to say, start us with creativity. Creativity. Go for it.
Okay, so you know, I don't know if Sir Ken Robinson, which I'm sure everybody knows, he's been famously quoted as saying that creativity is as important as literacy. And you know, so creativity has become kind of a buzzword, and a lot of people are, you know, thinking about how they can become more creative, how they can get their students to be more creative on a daily basis, so that it's not just such a big deal, that it actually becomes sort of a habit, and that we can, you know, hone the skills of being creative. So first, I mean, I've done a lot of research recently, actually, on what creativity is. It really intrigues me. And a couple of things that, you know, for my own life and for my research, well, first of all, it's really messy, right? So don't expect anytime that you're creative to be, you know, a clean shot. But it's important to realize that it's combinatorial and connected, that creativity happens more often when we're connected to each other, like an art studio sort of vibe. So although you can work independently, it's actually more fostered when you're connected with other people. So that could be your PLN, that could be people in the same room. And also to realize that it's about standing on the shoulders of giants, right? It's remixable, that all creativity is derivative to some extent. So a lot of times people have these notions that, like, oh, this person's a creative genius and they're so original. And being original is part of it, and finding a certain niche or, you know, some kind of unique take on something. But it is important to realize that it's all based on what's done before. And so the more we can immerse ourselves in, you know, studying the greats, studying how they worked, looking at the old notebooks of famous artists and reading biographies, we become, Austin Kleon says, we're a mashup of what we let into our lives. And that's sort of what we become creatively, excuse me. And so a couple of things about creativity. So I've explored the ways we can use creativity as, for example, as subtraction, like in blackout poetry, when you kind of erase the things around, you sort of find the angel in the marble, as Michelangelo said. You see what's in there, and then you chip away at it. Creativity as addition. How can we mash things up together or mix them together to create something new? So think of Legos when you think of that. And creativity in constraints. And this is an interesting one. This is how poetry works, or how music lyrics work, or even Twitter. That you can become more creative when you're given restraints or constraints, confines on your plan. So I know Apple used to have this really great film challenge called Insomnia, where they gave everyone 24 hours to make a film. And everyone had the same constraints. So you had to do a certain line, a certain prop, a certain character name, and everybody, you know, could make their own film with different genres. And that actually enables people to be more creative. And it actually frees them up from being so stressed, because a lot of times you think, I need freedom to be creative, but really it's very helpful, especially for students, if you have some sort of constraints. So I like to explore that in my classroom.
So and you're still teaching history, right?
Well, actually, no. I teach theory of knowledge, which is, there's a lot of history in theory of knowledge, but it's more like a philosophy course. It's one of the IB, or International Baccalaureate courses. So I have all the juniors and seniors, and it does give us a lot of freedom to do a lot of creative projects. And I try to, we're project-based anyway, but I try to, whenever I offer, you know, a project as an assessment, to really let the students kind of dictate where they're going to go with it. So I don't say, like, everybody's going to do the same thing, right? Or everybody's going to use the same tool. And this is where you can, if you're worried about that, if you're worried about, like, oh, I don't know all the tools out there, something really helpful to do, and that saved me quite a lot of trouble, is whenever I come across something on the internet that I find intriguing, like an interesting tool or an app or even a person, that say like a Vine person, something on Vine that's really intriguing, or Instagram. I keep them in a social bookmarking folder that I have in Digo called Create. That's just my Create folder. And I give that to my students for inspiration when they come across, when they, like ready to do a project. And I also have this big poster in my room. It's completely analog. It's just a big white piece of paper with Post-it notes. And anytime a student comes across an app, or say like, like a photo filtering app or something for your iPhone, they'll put it on the Post-it and maybe do a little review or explanation of it and stick it on the poster. So it's our own kind of curated, I guess, toolbox, really, for creative tools. And I call it like inspiration for creative makery or something like that. And it's really great because I'm getting the students to do all this sort of curation and searching. And then when we come to do, say, a film project, they can go to that poster and look at all the options. Oh, I want to make a collaborative film. Well, maybe we should use WeVideo or Viclone, which is a really cool app where you can make a collaborative film. So it's really helpful to just engage your students in sort of being the curators for creative makery tools, I guess. That's one helpful tip, I guess, to have. And also having a place to put all the cool stuff you come across, right, when you find it on the internet.
Totally. Hey, Amy.
So can you tell us what remixed culture is?
Okay, so remix culture is near and dear to my heart because I'm sort of known for my parody music videos. But remix is all about embracing the fact that creativity is derivative, and that we make things, we mash them up, or we can reinvent them by combining them in different ways. But the key to it is appropriation and attribution. So it's the realization that it's perfectly fine to appropriate, much like Andy Warhol, I guess, appropriated images to create something new. But the key and the most important part, and the part that's really about literacy, is that we must give proper attribution to our influences. So it's one thing to, take something and remix it or change it up and give it a new meaning. Basically, you're recontextualizing something. But it's very important to teach students to be overt about what their influences were, who their influences were, and maybe even link back to their work. And I think that's something that kind of has fallen by the wayside, but it's important for us to teach. And I think remix is really about play, which is huge, in learning. Play is probably the most important thing, and humor. It's about looking at things in new ways. And my favorite type of remix, actually, I have two favorite types. One is mashup, where it's kind of a juxtaposition of two things that completely don't go together. Like one of my favorite videos out there is they take a Chinese propaganda film that's where they're playing music, and they mash it up with Michael Jackson's "Beat It," and it's hilarious. But I mean, or another one on Twitter is Kim Kierkegaardian, which is Søren Kierkegaard's philosophy mixed with Kim Kardashian's philosophy, and just funny things, right? But giving it a new meaning. I used to do these projects when we studied Renaissance art, where students would take classic pieces of art and then remix them by adding crazy photo filters and maybe pop-up voice bubbles of what they would say or whatever. So it's really just playing with things, and it's part of our students' culture anyway. So I think tapping into it for education is really valuable. And we're living in sort of a weird time where we're emerging from this whole obsession with copyright and intellectual property, which is really just a blip in history. It wasn't always that way. We were more a remixable society than we were this copyrighted society. So things are changing, but it's kind of an ethos, right? Remix culture. That was a long answer, sorry. But I'm really passionate about remix culture. And one more thing about it is that a lot of companies, like, for example, Mozilla, is really into providing opportunities for students to not only build on the web, but manipulate the web and remix it. So they've created all kinds of tools called webmaker tools, which allow students to play with media and remix it, and then allow other people to remix your work, so that it becomes this cyclical thing, and everybody's remixing everybody's work.
Well, I hate to say this, but our time is gone. I mean,
No.
wait.
Okay.
Amy, wait a second. I got a crazy idea that we had before.
Okay.
But
All right.
how about you stay and do another show right now, like part 2? Would you do that?
Yeah, of course. Are you kidding? It's summer break. I'm totally gonna do that.
Wait, it is?
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, then we're going to come back for part 2. We're just going to keep the camera rolling here and do another episode with you. So thanks for watching, Mom and Dad.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go with the second show. Are we ready? In
Yeah.
5, 4. What does Lady Gaga have to do with history class?
You know, Rolla May said that we're living in a time of one age is dying and the new age is not born yet, or is being born, in fact. And you can't doubt that when you see a lot of things that are going on out there. And we have an amazing, amazing woman here today to talk to us. Amy Burvall is here, and she's going to talk about remixing pop culture, and really we want to get into some of those music videos that you're creating, because they're in your kids and what you're doing in your classrooms. Like, let's just do this. Like, talk about your music and your videos and how you do those things.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, Amy, of your music. It's great. Amy, just for our listeners, go on YouTube and search for Amy Burvall, and we'll put some links in the show. But and check out some of the work she's done. She has one video on the French Revolution that has at time of press here over 1.5 million views on it, and so there are classrooms that are using her music all over the place. And we're so privileged to learn a little bit more about that, Amy.
Thank you. Yeah, that started. Again, creativity is combinatorial, so I wouldn't have done all of this if I hadn't had a creative partner. I like to call certain people my creative soulmates. Over time, I've had a few, and working with another person that had a lot of musical talents. His name is Herb Mahalona. We became the history teachers on YouTube, and another part of that was our students asked us to put our videos on YouTube. This is back when YouTube was first starting out, and we weren't really sure about it. So it's this whole show your work or share your work, transparency kind of thing. And that's a good lesson in creativity. Like, don't be afraid to publish in the raw. Like, you don't have to be perfect, because there'll be somebody out there that really finds your work useful or lovely, and they'll, it's maybe people you don't even realize. Like, when we first published our videos, we thought only history students or teachers would like them, but it turned out that people that were homeschooling, people that were learning English because we have subtitles, people that were hearing impaired, they would write us and say, "Oh my gosh, this has totally changed my life," whatever. It sounds really funny, but and then they've been translated by fans too around the world in different languages, which you wouldn't think would happen, but they just did that on their own time. So don't be afraid to put your work out there. And have fun, and just don't take yourself too seriously, I guess, is my my big lesson from that whole experience.
So what's your inspiration for your videos? I mean, you've made videos using pop songs, 80s. I noticed that you like the 80s. Woo!
I love the 80s. Okay, well, a couple things. Of course, I grew up with Sesame Street, right? So, and also I'm just about Schoolhouse Rock, right? So those two things in the 70s really influenced me in knowing that rhyme is very sticky when it comes to learning things, and very enjoyable as well. And music attached to rhyme is even more powerful. So rap is wonderful as well, but when you attach actual music, the music part is the sticky, earwormy part, right? So if you can find music that's actually well known, like a pop song or a traditional song. And Mozart did this with, that's how we get ABC song is from Mozart. So basically it's these well-known things that just become earworms. And I've had kids say, "Oh, I was in the dentist office and like your Charlemagne song came on," but I'm like, no, that was actually Blondie's "Call Me," but okay, but they don't even know. But so I mean, although we have done some really new songs, I find that the 80s songs are a little more well known as far as their parents play them or whatever. Plus I like to do what I like, so Although people request things, I usually just end up doing what I want to do. Like I've always wanted to sing, "Come Eileen," so let's do it.
Let's sing right now. Oh, I
Oh, I swear. Okay. Yeah, you're so good at it too. I mean, I love watching the videos. You do the eye rolls. You like play the part. Do you have a theater background, or I mean, is this just something that comes natural to you?
Probably both. I think it comes natural to me, and that's why I have a theater background. Yeah, you got the Bengals eye roll thing, right? That was good. No, I was in like the School of Creative Performing Arts when I was in high school, but I was always sort of behind the scenes doing costumes and not really out there and as a star. But I have no fear, and that's I think the big thing about any kind of creativity is just lacking your self-censorship and just having fun and not worrying about it. So one of the things that allowed me to not have fear was that most of the videos that I made, I was going through cancer. At the time, I was going through chemo, and I had no hair, absolutely no hair. I was completely bald, and I had all these wigs, and I would just like rock them out, and I figured, well, what if I die next year? What am I going to leave behind? I know that sounds really morbid, but I started thinking about it. And I think Steve Jobs has a quote about that too. When he was first confronted by his mortality, he said something like, what else is there to fear? Like, okay, just do it then. And so it really freed me to do just kind of crazy things. And I encourage that kind of mentality, I guess, with anything. I mean, if everybody could have that without having to go through something traumatic, that would be great.
How about your costumes? I mean, that's another thing that blows me away. The production is excellent, the acting is great, the music is great, and I'm like, man alive, where do you get all those? I mean, you're wearing different stuff and everything, and it seems to fit all the different historical context of the video.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about fashion and costuming per se, but funny thing is, most of those are actually my own wardrobe that I've kind of pieced together. Like every time Halloween comes around, I don't even have to buy anything. I just go to my own closet, go shopping in my closet, piece things together, and it's really about remixing, right? Remixing different things, being resourceful. So using things that you wouldn't normally think. Like I know in Cleopatra, I'm wearing my bed sheets, my hot pink satin bed sheets, and in my Chinese video, I'm wearing a CD drive as an amulet, and just crazy stuff. And it translates well on film because it's really fast, and I'm dancing around, and through the magic of editing, like in this one song about Rome, my dress, which is red, changes colors about 10 times, but that's through the magic of Adobe Premiere After Effects. So, yay, Adobe. So you can do all kinds of goodies with being resourceful and having really good software is basically what it comes down to.
I mean, give us some tips then. What are some other types of software that you really love that you use to do these things?
Well, okay, so my partner, Herb, was this expert at Adobe, and that's the suite he used. But I have lately, when my students make videos or I make videos, I just go kind of bare bones. I even have filmed a couple using just my mobile phone and iMovie, which is just something anyone could have with your simple, laptop. And so I'm doing a little more experimenting with mobile phones. And lately I've tried to do stuff with my own sketches, but and maybe even I'm going to do a stop motion and maybe even an animation one. So it's kind of, and then of course like taking footage as well and cutting it up or mashing it into the live footage. But we found that fans actually liked the live footage better. So we stopped doing ones that were just kind of like movies cut up, and we just kind of did simple green screen is a big deal. Like we just painted a wall green, and you can do wonders with a green screen, right? If you have one, or get a green sheet. Yeah, fun.
That's cool.
Hey, what for the people that have not seen your videos, what types of topics? I know you have like 60 videos or something on YouTube, so you don't have time to name them all. But can you just give us a quick sampling of what different topics you've covered in your videos?
Yeah, so most of them were made when I was teaching world history, ancient to Renaissance. So the bulk of them are about the ancient world all the way up through the Renaissance. But our most popular one, the French Revolution, is obviously about the French Revolution. It's Lady Gaga. And then I've done a couple more modern ones, one on Napoleon. I've done a couple literature things, such as the Odyssey, and Romeo and Juliet will be coming out shortly, hopefully. And, you know, just Canterbury Tales. So English teachers find it really helpful. Beowulf. Things that sort of are historical and literature-based, I guess. But I'd love to start doing more philosophy ones, perhaps, or I don't know how that's going to work out, but and more literature ones, actually. And then I've done a couple on sort of tech and society, like digital life, which was a side project for me. It wasn't really one of ours, but that's become kind of a fun one to show at conferences when you're talking about how nothing's real until we Instagram our shots, things like that. So.
Hey, Henry VIII's not too far behind that French. Maybe we can help Henry VIII catch up to the French Revolution.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of software, a lot of ours were done with good old Flash, R.I.P. Flash. But yeah, my friend was a really great Flash animator, and so they have that sort of Monty Python feel. You know, a couple of them, including Henry VIII, have this sort of funny Monty Python feel. And the Spanish Inquisition one, where we just cut out our mouths and we just were like these famous paintings. And yeah, I want to do some on art history, actually. That's my real love. So
well, keep making those, man.
A couple.
We love them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Teachers are using them all over the place, obviously. So for those people that don't know about them, now they do.
Yeah, just type in history teachers on YouTube, just one word, history teachers, and you'll find a bevy of them, I'm sure.
Hey, Amy, where can people connect and just learn more and gain more knowledge from you?
Well, you can just, my name is really unique. I'm the only Amy Burvall in the world, so if you just type in Amy Burvall in Google, you'll find me all over the place. But Twitter, I'm really accessible on Twitter as Amy Burvall, and then, of course, I have a website, amyburvall.com. And lately I've been doing a lot of sketchnoting, so I've created a Tumblr for my sort of icons that you can check out, and SlideShare. Whenever I do presentations, I always put them on SlideShare, so you can check that out. So I'm an avid believer in sharing everything for free. So that's my big push, is radical transparency. So show your work.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Amy. You are an inspiration and creative genius, and we love having you with us here today.
Aw, thank you. Remember, there's no geniuses. Everyone's creative. Remember, everyone's an artist. So it's just training yourself to have the time, too. And or have insomnia. That's what I have. So that helps.
and using it for productive things, right?
Exactly. My biggest piece of advice is keep a notebook. I can't tell you how many songs I've written on receipts in the car while driving, and I have to find like a Starbucks receipt to write the lyrics down on. So if you can keep a notebook next to you at all times, that's the number one thing.
That's what I use my phone for. Yeah.
Yep. That's a good one, too. Well, thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, thank you, and thanks for watching, Mom and Dad.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Bye.